All right, let's take a look at Parshas Toldos. Okay, so this is Parshas. Obviously, it's loaded. It's loaded. So it starts like this. So we're going to have to take this one pasuk at a time. Ve'ela Toldos Yitzchak ben Avram. These are the children of Yitzchak, the son of Avram, because it's going to be a description of the lives of Yaakov and Esav that's coming up. Avraham holid es Yitzchak, which seems redundant. Why do you need to tell me that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak? So why do you need to tell me that? Now, number one, now. Number two, Yitzchak is 60 years old at this point. I mean, we should know this by now, right? Why are you telling it to me, and why are you telling it to me now? So take a look at Rashi. Rashi says, Avram holid es Yitzchak. So Rashi says in the right column, third line from the top, the right column towards the end of the line. Lefi shahayu leitzanei hador omrim, the scoffers of the generation said, Me Avimelech nisabra Sarah. The Sarah became pregnant from Avimelech. She was alone with Avimelech, and a short while later she gets pregnant and has a child. Well, Shahare Kama Shonim Shahasayim Avram. She was with Avram for quite a few years. Viloni Sabra Himenu. She was with Avram over 70 years and never got pregnant. Page 124. And here she's with Avimelech, and then she does have a child. So they said, well, must be from Avimelech. Ma asa HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What did Hashem do? Tsar klaster panav sho Yitzchak dome le'Avram. He made Yitzchak's face look exactly like Avram. Vehi idu hakol Avram holigdes Yitzchak. Everybody said, yeah, that's Avram's son. Umau shekosav kain Yitzchak ben Avram haya. Sharei edus yesh Avram holigdes Yitzchak. It's testimony that Avram gave birth to Yitzchak. So, when you go back 60 years, what happened? Sarah got pregnant. Now, according to by one account, it was 12 months later that she had a baby. Babies are usually in for 9. Yeah. 12 months later, she had a baby, and people say, well, it must be 12 months after the incident with Avimelech. Mm-hmm. She has a baby. They say, well, I don't know. Maybe it was one of those long pregnancies. She was overdue, one of those long pregnancies. The Medrash Tanchumer says that even a bigger shock. The Medrash says that they were saying she either got pregnant from Avimelech or from Paro. From Paro. Paro was 25 years earlier. That is one long pregnancy, right? All husbands will tell you that the 9th month of pregnancy, the 9th month feels like 9 months. Right? The 9 months of pregnancy takes forever. The wife is just like, she's immobile and she's fetching and it takes her, till she finally gives birth. And it just feels like that last 9 months, that last month makes up for the rest of the 8 months put together, okay? But 25 years would be a long pregnancy, right? So the first thing the commentaries say is, you see, and even Avimelech, that's 12 months earlier. Mm-hmm. So there's when you want to be cynical about something, people who become cynical and skeptical, they are often irrational. Right? They're often irrational. So it's one thing, Avimelech, okay, 12 months maybe they lost track of time. 25 years, nobody lost track of time. But when somebody tries to argue, you find this with Yiddishkeit all the time, people make these ridiculous arguments. I had a guy once who said to me, how do you know that Hashem gave the Torah? Maybe it was an outer space monster. So the guy said to me. So I said to the guy, listen, even if it was, L'may nafkamina. What difference does it make? If he could hold a mountain over you, you better do what he says. So what do you gain? What do you gain by making a claim that's an outer space monster? But if you want to be skeptical, then you get these people with carbon dating. Yet they make us say, well, it must be the world is 17 billion years old, and they got it down to the minute, right? It's 17,641,927 years, in 11 hours and 12 minutes old. They got it all down to because you don't want to admit to the creator and a creation, and they come up with absolute ridiculous arguments. That's what happens when you're skeptical, when you're trying to be a cynic. That's what could happen. Number one. Number two, there's a much deeper idea here. What's in it for them? What's in it for them to claim that the child came from Hashem makes him look like Avram Avinu? But what's in it for them? I mean, let's say he came from Avimelech. What do you gain? What is your agenda here? What's your agenda to say that it came from Avimelech and not from Avram Avinu? What's in it for you? Why would you make that claim? Why is it that everybody's just, and it seems like it was an awful lot of people who were trying to champion this cause, that Hashem has to make him look like Avimelech. It wasn't just some kid in the back, some 16-year-old, cynical 16-year-old looking at his smartphone and saying, yeah, it probably came from Avimelech. It seems to have been a movement of some sort to claim that Yitzchak did not come from Avram Avinu. Why? What's in it for you? The answer is that, well, if you can see that he came from Avram Avinu, that means that the whole thing's a miracle. It's a miraculous birth over here. Because either Avram or Sarah, one of them couldn't have children. One of them didn't come from Avram, he came from Sarah. I mean, Avram did have a Yishmael, but now he's a little older. You undermine the entire miraculous nature of Yitzchak's birth. And if you can undermine the miraculous nature of Yitzchak's birth, you undermine the entire tradition coming from an Avram, a Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and ultimately upright Yiddishkeit. So it's not just because they're trying to be cynics. It's just a cynic for the cynical sake. It's a cynic because, hey, if all of this is true, we're all in trouble. Because then life has a purpose, and we have obligations, and we have to get our act together. So if we have to do everything we can, everything we possibly can, in order to fight against this story of a chain of traditions starting with Avram and a Yitzchak and a Yaakov and so on and so forth. And there's a chain in tradition. We have a chain of tradition. You know that there's a medrash that says that the donkey that Avram Avinu rode is a donkey that was created Erev Shabbos Bein HaShmashos. That donkey was created on Erev Shabbos. That's the donkey that Mashiach will ride. Right? And why? That's one old donkey, boy. And you couldn't come up with another donkey? Why do you have to? That means that there's a chain. It's extending from the time of creation all the way to Mashiach. There's one unbroken chain. And anybody who wants to try to reject all of this has to fight against that chain as hard as they can. And therefore, the Torah comes along and says, right here, now we're going to have the children of Yitzchak. So let's just review quickly. Yitzchak comes from Avram Avinu. There's an unbroken chain. There's an unbroken chain. That's the first idea here. Okay? Then it says, Vahi Yitzchak ben Arbaim Shana Bekachto es Rivka bas V'Sual Aram Padan Aram. Yitzchak is 40 years old. Achos Lovan Arami Lo Leisha. So Yitzchak is 40 years old. And then the Torah says something very strange. The Torah says, Vayeta Yitzchak LaHashem leNochach Ishto ki akorahi. Yitzchak davens to Hashem opposite his wife because she was barren. Vayeyaser lo Hashem v'tar Rivka Ishto. And Hashem responds to him, and Rivka becomes pregnant. And I told you the word vatahar, which, we've had before. The word vatahar, the root of the word of vatahar is har, is a mountain. Because when a woman becomes pregnant, she becomes mountainous, becomes mountain-like. That's where the word comes from, right? That's what it says. Vatahar, she became like a har. Well, it doesn't say she became like a valley. Right? She became like a zebra. It says she became like a har. Right? She became like Jiffy Pop. Just kind of. I mean, that's what happens. That's what pregnancy is. So you have several problems here. We're not going to get much further than this today. You have several problems here. Problem number one is first of all, why is she barren? Why is Rivka barren? So this goes back to the question: why was Sarah Beno barren? Why was Rachel barren? Well, what's the common denominator here between the imahos that they're barren? And Rivka, there's a second reason why she's barren. First of all, when she left Lavan's house, they gave her a bracha, last week's Parsha. What was the bracha they gave her? Look back for a second. The bracha was on page 118. 5 lines from the bottom, on 118. Vayomru la, Achosenu, our sister. She's about to leave. It says, Vayivarchu es Rivka, 5 lines from the bottom. They blessed Rivka, Vayomer la, Achosenu ad ha'i la'alfei ravav. You should be a multitude. The Yira Zarech Eshar, son of it, your offspring should inherit, your offspring should conquer all their enemies. So there's a concern that if Rivka gets pregnant right away, people will say it's because of that bracha. It's that bracha that got her pregnant right away. Comes along, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, we can't have that. So first she's going to be barren for 10 years. 10 years is officially barrenness. She's barren for 10 years. You know that according to halacha, a husband and wife living in Eretz Yisrael, if they're barren for 10 years, then they have to get a divorce. They have to get a divorce. nowadays it's not enforced. It's not enforced nowadays. There are poskim that say that he doesn't have to divorce his wife. But a couple that's been living together in Israel 10 years and do not have children, by letter of the law, they're supposed to get divorced. They can marry other partners, because it could be that they don't have the mazel to have children together, and then they can marry somebody else. Yeah, that's a halacha. And the poskim say that nowadays it's not enforced. There were gedolim where Chazon Ish did not have children. He did not divorce his wife. Chazon Ish said it's pikuach nefesh. It's life-threatening. If he divorces her, she'll probably, the emotional trauma, she'll die from it. So it's not enforced, but there is such a halacha. So she's barren she's barren in order to be sure that, what do you call it? She's barren that nobody should think it was Lavan's bracha that got her children, number one. Number two, why was Sarah barren, and why was Rivka, why is Rachel barren? Why are all the Emos barren? So the Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu withheld children from the matriarchs. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu mis'ave l'tfilas and shel tzadikim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires the prayer of the righteous. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mis'ave l'tfilas and shel tzadikim. What does that mean? That means that the desire to have children is going to cause them to daven. Which then makes you think, gee, I'd rather not be a tzaddik. If that's what happens to tzaddikim, who wants to be a tzaddik? Right? All right, we don't have a choice. You have to be a tzaddik. Then let HaKadosh Baruch Hu decide how things work. But at the end of the day, the children are withheld. Now, why is that? And it's specifically the one thing they want more than anything else. They had wealth, and they were good-looking, and they had everything you could. They were famous, they were rich, they were influential. They had everything you could possibly want, but the one thing they wanted more than anything else was children, and that HaKadosh Baruch Hu withheld. Why? So I always like to use the example of the Navy SEALs. You know anything about the Navy SEALs? I was considering trying out for the Navy SEALs. Right? I had several setbacks. Number one, I'm a coward. I'm afraid of heights, I'm afraid of water, I'm afraid of everything, and I can't take a punch, right? Other than that, I would have been a great qualification. So I give you an example, which is very much. I've read several articles on the Navy SEALs. It's fascinating. The training is fascinating, what the Navy SEALs go through. So they could start with a group of, let's say, 500 Marines. The toughest, most rugged Marines you could possibly imagine. Mm-hmm. Okay? They start off with a group of 500 guys. And sometimes they'll go through the training period to qualify to become, and not one of the 500 will qualify. And you're talking about 500 Marines. You're talking about guys who are already pretty tough, right? You're not talking about guys sitting in Punovich learning. You're talking about 500 big, solid, tough Marines. Okay. So they'll do something like this. I'm only using an example, but if anything, I'm under exaggerating it. They start out with these 500 Marines, and the first week is sleep deprivation week. They're allowed to sleep 45 minutes a night, and the rest of the time they're running around carrying logs, doing all those things that they're doing, crawling under barbed wire, okay, 45 minutes a night sleep. By the third day, 200 guys are going out of their mind. They can't take it anymore. They drop out of the program. What happens to these 200 guys? They put them in a room, there's a shower, a meal, a bed. You're out of the program. The next 300 guys go to the second week, which is on and off submersion in ice water for about 14 hours a day. Whoa. Right? And by the third day, another 200 guys drop out of the program. Put them in a room, a shower, a bed, a meal. You're out of the program. They go to the last week, which is being dangled upside down on and off for 10 hours a day. By the third day, 98 guys drop out of the program. 2 guys make it through, and they become the Navy SEALs. Okay, now, somebody looking from what happens to the other 98? A shower, a bed, a room, you're out of the program. Somebody looking from the outside says, hey, none of this makes sense. These guys failed. So the first guys failed the sleep deprivation. They get a bed, a meal, and a shower. These guys succeeded. Good, you get ice water. Right? Then the other guys failed. They get the bed and the shower. You guys succeeded. Good, you get dangled upside down. Right? Doesn't make any sense. Right? It's counterintuitive. The answer is that sometimes in life, in order to get to the highest level, you have to go through a tremendous challenge to get to that highest level. So we create an ordeal for you, and if you make it through, then it's the two of you that are wearing that badge, you're Navy SEALs. Then you go to hunt people like Bin Laden, like the guy with the tichel and the beard, right? And you know, you have the honor of going and hunting down Bin Laden, right? But you have to go through the challenge first in order to get there, right? You find this without being a Navy SEAL. You find this in other areas of life also. If you want to become a doctor, you got to go through medical school, which means basically doing nothing but studying. And after you finish studying, then you got residency, which means you're on 36-hour shifts, right? Or ridiculous torture. They go to eventually become a doctor. I was a phys ed major, right? I didn't have to do any of that, right? I didn't do much studying, and I certainly didn't go on 36-hour shifts. You know, so yeah, there's one difference. My friend, the doctor, is making a lot more money than I am today. That's the difference. And he's a doctor. I once asked him what his daily schedule was. He told me he used to get up when in medical school. He said he used to get up at 6:30 in the morning and study till 10:30 at night, straight. Except for 20 minutes, he took off 20 minutes to play ping pong to let out his aggressions. And then right back to the books. To this day, he told me he doesn't have he's able to go to sleep like this for about 10 minutes. Anywhere, anytime he can sleep for 10 minutes. He doesn't need a lot of sleep. That was part of his training, right? And what do you call it? I can't sleep like this. I need horizontal. I need a horizontal situation with pillows, right? I'm not into this. I'm not into this bend the neck type of thing. You know, so that's part of the training. But eventually you get there. The ultimate good in life is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. All right, we're back to basics, gentlemen. God sounds like good. And in every religion, the name of God is good. It's associated with good. In German, it's gut, right? That's how you say it, right? It's always, in people in general, you notice somebody who goes through, when you hear about something terrible happens, people say, how could a good God let something like that happen? How could a good God let the Holocaust happen? Nobody says, how could a bad God let somebody win the lottery? Nobody ever said, how could a bad God let women have children, right? Nobody says a bad God. Everybody says, well, if God is good, so why are you assuming God is good? The answer is because he is. In the end, all we know about God, the Ramchal says, the only thing we know about God is that he's tov umetiv. He's good and he bestows goodness. Well, the closer you get to the source of good, the better it is for you. The Avos and the Imos, because of what else they did, because of their other dedication and devotion, they got to a level where HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you have earned the privilege of going to round 2, of going into the ice water. You've earned the privilege of going into the ice water. But it's a privilege to get to the ice water because 200 guys don't even get to go to round 2. You failed. You've earned the privilege to come closer. How am I going to pull you closer? By withholding that which you want most, which is going to generate a tefillah that's coming from the depths of your heart, and that tefillah is going to bring you even closer to me. You've earned the privilege to come closer, you understand? And since you've earned the privilege to come closer, Kosh Baruch Hu withholds it, and then the Avos daven, and eventually they get those children. But not only they get the children, they've broken through to a new level in their connection to the Rebbe Shalom. That's what's going on. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires, the tefillah of the righteous. That's why he withholds children. By the way, the lesson here, there's a very important lesson, because we don't know why somebody goes through a difficulty. There are different reasons why somebody may go through a difficulty. Let's say somebody's caught in traffic. It could be a punishment. It could be an atonement for various averos. It could be a test. And it could even be Yisurim Shalava, that a person doesn't deserve any suffering. HaKadosh Baruch Hu just wants to give him some suffering because he'll grow from it. We don't know why. One thing is clear. One of the reasons may be that something is withheld to draw us closer and have us daven harder, right? If a person were to daven hard, thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for what he does have, everybody has something. If you'd thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we would thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Can we open that window over there just to get some crosshair? If a person thanks HaKadosh Baruch Hu from the depths of his heart, he may actually, by doing that, avoid an unpleasant situation. Because if the unpleasant situation is there in order to draw him closer, so you could draw closer by saying, cry your eyes out thanking Hashem for what you've got. We don't know. That may not be the reason. We don't know. I heard a story once about a guy. The father has 3 sons. And on the day his first son turns 18, so a letter arrives from a lawyer. An anonymous donor has sent $1 million to become your son's on his 18th birthday. Not a bad birthday gift, right? So of course, 18-year-old male, $1 million, goes out and buys himself a car. Right? Oh, there are 2 girsas, either a car or a sports car. Right? No one ever said, oh, that new lawnmower he always wanted. No, it's always he goes out and buys himself a Ferrari, right? He buys himself a Lamborghini, right? Okay, so he's driving around in his Ferrari, speeding around in his Ferrari for 3 weeks, and at 90 miles an hour he hits a tree and he gets killed instantly. 2 years later, the second son turns 18. Letter arrives from the lawyer, an anonymous donor, $1 million. It's supposed to be a true story. Guy takes the $1 million. The family's a little more cautious this time. They put most of it away. He has a certain amount of money, more than it's good for an 18-year-old to have. He gets involved with the wrong friends. He gets involved in drugs. He's got the money for the drugs. Becomes addicted, has to go into rehab. His life is ruined. 2 years later, the third son turns 18. Letter arrives from the lawyer, $1 million. Father picks up the phone, calls the lawyer. He says, we don't want the money. We don't want the money. He says, I'm sorry, your son is legally an adult. You can't decline it. He'd have to decline it himself. Father goes ballistic. He says, who keeps sending this money? He says, remember about 20 years ago you were in business, you had a partner, and you had a very nasty split. This partner vowed that one day he's going to get revenge. He made a lot of money, and he decided the best way to get revenge was to send $1 million to each of your sons on their 18th birthday. Looks like he was right. Terrible story, right? I love it. So the guy told me it's supposed to be a true story. What's the lesson? The lesson is that sometimes when we daven, we ask for things, and I know exactly what I need. And one of the things that I need is that Powerball ticket that some guy in Los Angeles is running around with, right? That was one of the things that I knew I needed. Coach Baruch, and somehow Coach Baruch says, no, I think not, right? Because at the end of the day, Coach Baruch says, if you get what you're asking for right now, either it'll ruin you physically, it'll ruin you spiritually, it'll mess you up. There are people who have become rich overnight, or people who have had some sort of blessing, or have risen to a position of guy rises to a position of prominence and now goes to his head and becomes an intolerable braggart and a balgaiva. Yeah, you get another guy who got money, and the money was this. You never know what it is. You never know what it is that's going to happen, and you don't know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is withholding it. You don't know why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is withholding it. The bottom line is that if a person were to daven from the bottom of his heart, thanking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so he might accomplish the same thing. There's Chumashim over there, pass over the Chumash over there. Page 124. Okay, that's the what do you call it? That's the. Now this answers another question. Yeah, go ahead, Bear.
So I mean, just I'm curious of what's the idea behind Ishmael's situation, which means him and even like Hashem wants his tefillah, right?
Hashem wants everybody's tefillah. Hashem wants everybody's tefillah. Even a goy has to make a connection. Rabbi Yishmael has a chelik in Olam Haba. Rabbi Yishmael, whatever, he died as a tzaddik. Yishmael, the Chazal say he died in tshuva. Yishmael died as a tzaddik. And Rav Victor Miller says that even Avraham Avinu's 6 children that he had after he had another 6 children, he says those children were obviously excellent. Whatever happened, they were sons of Avraham Avinu. Whatever happened to their descendants is something else. But each person, even a goy, has an obligation. A goy has an obligation to live a certain type of righteousness in his life. Okay? Now, this answers another question. And this is a bigger question. Take a look at the pasuk again, the 4th line. It says, Vayetar Yitzchak laHashem lenochach ishto ki akorahi. Yitzchak davened to Hashem opposite his wife because she was barren. Vayeyaser lo Hashem batar Rivka ishto. Hashem responded to him and Rivka became pregnant. Now, before we even look at Rashi, do you have a problem with that pasuk? Don't have a problem with that pasuk. Yitzchak davened to Hashem opposite his wife because she was barren. Page 124, 4th line. Nobody have a problem with that, pasuk? Yeah.
Why is he davening for her?
Why is he davening for her? Because it's his wife. And it's him. He also wants children. Something in the structure of the pasuk should bother you. Yeah, what do you say, Ezra?
That he's davening away from.
Lenochach means opposite her. Opposite her. Rashi says he was in one corner, she was in the other corner, and they sat there davening. Something about the structure of the pasuk should bother you. Something about the structure of the pasuk. Nate, nothing bother you about the structure? Where's Nate? Nothing bother you about the structure of the pasuk? Well, if I was writing it, I would write, well, there was a woman named Rivka who was barren, and therefore her husband Yitzchak davened. I would write Yitzchak davened. Why? Because his wife was barren. Sounds like an afterthought. Sounds like an afterthought. Well, what's the subject of the story? His davening or her barrenness? You understand the problem? Just structurally, if you wrote this on an English paper, you'd fail. Now, if you wrote it, the English teacher would say to you, your structure is no good. Right? He'd say, what do you call it? Yitzchak daven to Hashem. Why? Because his wife was barren. It's an awkward pasuk. Just say Rivka was barren, and therefore Yitzchak daven. The answer is because the subject is not her barrenness. The subject is the davening. When you ask what comes first, the chicken or the davening? Right? If you ask your average person on the street, what is the purpose of davening? What would your average person tell you?
They wouldn't know what it is.
Huh?
They wouldn't know what it is.
Your average person who davens, and he asks, what's the purpose of davening? To get stuff.
Yeah.
Right? When you need something, you daven. You don't need something, you don't daven. You daven less. Right? When you're davening Shemona Esrei, honestly, between me and you, where do you daven harder? Which bracha elicits the most kavana? When you're davening V'li Yerushalayim Ircha, or when you're davening Rifa'enu, or you're davening Barech Aleinu, right? That's pretty hardcore and tangible. Somebody's got some pain, they daven Rifa'enu. Somebody needs some money, you daven Barech Aleinu. Yerushalayim, I like Yerushalayim as much as the next guy, and I want it to be rebuilt. But somehow it doesn't bring out the same in me as when I have an attack of gout and I'm in pain and I'm davening Rifa'enu. Boy, is that a tefillah! Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy! Right? The angels are dancing around me. When I get to Yerushalayim, sometimes I don't even know that I've been there. Between me and you, sometimes I find myself at Modim and somehow I bypassed Yerushalayim. I must have said it. But I guess I took the outer drive. I never went right through the city. Whereas when you're davening for Barech Aleinu, and you go, whoa, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Right? So I guess davening is to get what you need. No, the answer is no. The answer is we got it in the wrong order. Once again, we got it in the wrong order. The point of the story is Yitzchak davened. Why did he daven? Because Rivka was barren. Had it not been that, it would have been, what do you call it? It would have been because of gout. Had it not been that, it would have been because of Parnasa. It would have been something else. But the point of the story is Yitzchak daven. That's the point of the story. And this goes back to what we said earlier. The purpose of davening is davening. That we should get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not that we should get the thing we're davening for. The thing that we're davening for may very well be withheld in order to get us to daven. That's the order of things. You follow? Very important concept because people don't have this straight. Davening is an ends in and of itself. It's not a means to an ends. It's an ends in and of itself. The Jews.
What about the gratitude part?
The gratitude is part of our davening.
Yeah,
If we show gratitude.
we're not asking for anything.
Right, that's exactly why. When you say gratitude is pure thank you connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just pure connection. That's exactly what the point is. That if we've been given something, daven in gratitude. I don't need anything now. I'm just thanking Hashem. I've obviously been given something for the purpose of getting closer to Hashem. And we're always davening. Jews are always davening. There's one thing Jews do. We're always davening. There's always a davening lurking. There's another mincha around the corner, right? There's always a mincha, there's a mariv, there's a benching. There's always something. You got to make 100 brachas a day. We're always davening. What's the point of the whole thing? The point of the whole thing is to make that cake. My wife once said to me, a frum woman goes out with her husband at night. She can never relax. You go out to a restaurant, a frum woman can never relax. Because always, I got to catch a mariv. I'll be right back. right? You know, hey, you can never be just go out for the evening. It's like, oh, I got to catch a Marv. What's that? I missed mincha today. You know, I got to grab a mincha. There's always, which by the way, between me and you is your fallback position, because if you're ever out with your wife's family, I got to go. Oh, sorry, I got down Marv, right? Then you leave. You come back 2 days later. You know what happened? Where were you? Oh, well, Yalav Yavo. You know, took a while longer. It's not Rosh Chodesh. Well, it is now. That's always your fallback. Gotta go daven. So we're always davening. Why we're always davening? We always need stuff. The answer is that they're always davening is to maintain. That's why we daven 3 times a day. So I once walked into, my wife's from Columbus, Ohio. It's not my fault, that's where she's from. And so Columbus is a very, very, it's not a heavily Jewish town. Very not Jewish. Not only that, Columbus is very America. When they test products, it's like kind of lower middle class, upper lower class, that sort of thing. Very America. When they test products, when companies want to put a product on the market, one of the cities that they use for testing products is Columbus, because it's like a cross-section of America. So they test products in Columbus. So I once had to go, and I'm from Chicago, which is very, much more of a Jewish presence. Right? It was Jewish, it wasn't very religious, most of not religious, but it was very Jewish. I remember there was one store, there was one restaurant called The Bagel, which was not kosher, but it's all these old Jews who spoke Yiddish. And then we would go in there to the bagel. In Columbus, you never saw the bagel. You saw the bacon. You never saw the bagel. It was very, very not Jewish flavor to the town. So my brother-in-law was an accountant. He was working in a department store. So I had to go speak to my brother-in-law. So I went down to the department store. There's a young lady behind the counter who was obviously not Jewish. And I said to her, "Excuse me, where's Mr. Cohen?" And she said, he's in Minyan. So I looked at her like, "You didn't say what I just thought you said. It can't be you just said what I thought you said." I said to her, "Well, where is this here minyan?" She goes, "Well, in the storage area, second office on the right." I was baffled. I said, I couldn't imagine what she meant. I opened the door, and sure enough, there are 11 Jewish guys from the company, and they all got together in the middle of the day, davening mincha. They're davening mincha, and I think some of them were not religious. I think a couple of them were intermarried, but in the middle of the day, you stop. That's exactly the point of the davening. The point of the davening is that, and by the way, the Gemara says a person should be very conscientious about mincha. Then the Gemara says about Ma'ariv and Shachris, but it starts with mincha. Mincha is the one, right? Mincha is the one. Shachris, I'm going to get to shul at Shachris. Whether my eyes are open or not, I'm going to get to Shachris. Ma'ariv, I'm going to daven. I'm usually home around Ma'ariv time. Mincha, you don't know where you are. Mincha, you could be at an amusement park. You could be in the middle of a work day. You could be, at a ball game in Baltimore, in Camden Yards in Baltimore, where the Orioles play. They're the first ones. They started after the 6th inning, under the stands after the 6th inning, they have a minyan. They were going to do it in Wrigley Field too in Chicago, but you can't daven for a miracle. So we could daven for the Cubs. But you're always going to drop what you're doing and for what? To make contact. That's the whole goal. The whole goal of davening is make contact with the Rebbeinu Shalom. Make contact. Which is why women don't need a minyan. Isn't that interesting? Women don't need a minyan. Why do men need a minyan?
Because they always have contact.
What's that?
They always have contact.
They always have the more natural contact. A woman could daven by herself, and she davens. A man davens by himself, it kind of looks like this. A man, leave a man to his own devices. You get a woman davening. I've seen my own daughters, from the earliest age, 7 years old, they daven like this. They stand in a corner like this. You watch 2 boys davening. Watch a little boy daven. He's like this. A 7-year-old boy, 9-year-old boy is like this. He's finished before he started. Right? You get 2 little boys together. It's like this. The girl. So what happens? Men are essentially just little boys. There's a statement you should know. I heard from Rabbi Tatz. I haven't seen it inside. Rabbi Tatz said there's a statement in the Zohar that says a little girl, is a mother. She's a woman from the earliest age, and a man is a little boy always. Right? Men want to play. Men always want to play. We're always ready. They're always ready to be distracted by something. What does a minyan do? A minyan creates a situation. You're in a shul. There are other people around you. We need all the help we could get. Left to on our own, we're just not going to do it that way. We're just not going to do it the way a female does it. So a woman is going to daven, but they daven. They really daven. They really daven. A man, even in shul, we're lucky to stay focused for 5 minutes at a time, right? But we need we need all the help we could get. So that's the idea. The idea is this constant focus, constant stop what you're doing and make contact. That's the idea. Why do we make 100 brachas a day? Same thing. 100 brachas a day. What's the idea? Where did they get that idea from? If you say in a bracha 100 times a day, you say Baruch Atah Hashem, you are the source of all blessing, Hashem. You say it 100 times a day. So then you're going to have a different relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's the idea. Okay. So Rivka gets pregnant and she has pain. And she goes to find out, she gets a prediction over here that she's got twins. She's wondering, why does she have so much pain? If she's pregnant, they thought, well, you actually got twins. Okay, so on top of page 126. Vayetze harishon admoni. The first one comes out, probably translated as ruddy. How does he translate ruddy? Emerged red. Kulo ka'aderes seyar. Completely hairy. ArtScroll translated as hairy mantle. I think that was Mickey Mantle's brother, right? The ArtScroll translated as a hairy mantle.
What is the mantle?
A mantle is a garment of some sort. Vayikru Shmo Esav. They called him Esav. Everybody who saw him, everybody called him Esav. Vayikru Shmo Esav. What does the name Esav come from? We gotta get some clarity here on what Esav is. The word Esav comes from the word oseh, which is to do. Esav, he's done, he's completed, which is the idea of being hairy. The idea of being hairy is an adult, a baby is born, a baby doesn't have much hair. When a person, as the child grows, it starts growing hair, you become hairy. Hair means fullness, completion. The growth is completed. So Esav, both in his name and in his physical structure, symbolizes completion. Completion means I don't have any more work to do on myself. I'm done. I'm complete. Esav, asui, I'm done. Ve'acharechen yotza ochi ve'yodo ochezes ba'akev Esav ve'yikra shmo Yaakov ve'yitzchak ben shishim shana beledes osam. So the two twins come out. Yaakov is holding Esav's ankle. Now I'm going to tell you a fascinating idea. This, again, I told you, this is like a tapestry. Either you see it or you don't. It's like an orchestra. Either a concert. What do you call it? It's like classical music. Either you hear it or you don't. Okay. Again, Yaakov is holding on to Esav's ankle. There's a whole discussion if they were in one placenta, two placentas, right? But he's holding on to Esav's ankle. Later, we're going to see that Yitzchak seems to have a bit of confusion about what's going on here. Who is this Esav, right? What do Yitzchak and Rivka have a different read on Esav? Yitzchak favors Esav, and Rivka sees right through him. Where did Yitzchak get thrown off? Where did Yitzchak get thrown off on Esav? Now, there's an opinion, there is an approach among the Mefarshim that Yitzchak was not thrown off. He saw what Esav was, but he felt that he's got to relate to Esav a certain way in order to keep Esav within the fold. But the plain meaning is that there was a deception over here, and Esav deceived Yitzchak. We'll see why in a second. We'll see how. But one thing is clear. Yitzchak, there's something here that gives him a certain view, an approach to Esav. What is it that Yitzchak hears about? This was an anomaly. Something strange happened. The people who gave what do they call them? The midwives, or what do they call them? The midwives, the labor coaches. Nowadays they have a labor coach, whatever. The report came out, wow, this one's red and hairy, and this one's all smooth, and you know what else is weird? He was holding on to his ankle. He had a hand on his foot, as if Yaakov's trying to pull him back so I could get out first, so I could be the firstborn, symbolically. And there's a whole discussion about free will within the womb and not free will. Okay, whatever the case is, Yitzchak hears a report of the hand on the foot. When's the last time Yitzchak saw a hand on a foot? You know when the last time is? What's that? That's right. You know what akeda means? Akedah, when they took an animal and sacrificed an animal, they had to bind it up in the base of Mikdash. How do you bind up an animal? You took the foreleg and the hind leg on each side. You didn't bind them like this. You didn't put the two legs together in front, two legs in back. You took a front leg and a back leg and bound them together. And you took a front leg and a back leg and you bound them together. Well, Yitzchak was put on the altar. And Avram Avinu bound Yitzchak up. That's what the word Akedah means. He bound him up like a korban. Well, if he bound him up like a korban, how did he bind him up? With a hand on a foot. So Yitzchak, when they're born and he hears a hand on a foot, in his mind, what's the ultimate, the pinnacle of devotion that anyone has ever reached in the history of the world was that Akedah, with Yitzchak's hand on his foot. He hears in Yaakov and Esav with a hand on a foot that there's going to be a partnership here to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the highest level. That's what he hears. And therefore these two brothers are meant to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu together. And that's what Yitzchak hears with the hand on the foot. The hand on the foot tells Yitzchak this is something that's different. This is something that's a partnership. And therefore he already has a certain view of Esav, which by the way, Esav had free choice. This has to be very, very clear. Esav had free choice. He could have fulfilled his role and he would have been a full partner of Yaakov Avinu through history as a Yisachar Zvulun relationship. Esav was going to be the hunter, the one who provides the material, and Yaakov was going to sit and learn Torah. Esav failed in his mission, and then what happens? It's taken away from Esav, and the entire mission is put within Yaakov. And where does it find expression? In that Yisachar Zvulun relationship, where Yisachar and Zvulun have that partnership. That Yisachar Zvulun partnership was originally supposed to be a partnership between Yaakov and Esav. And that's what throws Yitzchak off. That hand on the foot, which is already in Yitzchak's mind, that's an omen. That's an indication of what's supposed to happen over here. Esav goes to the bad because he misuses his free choice. Esav goes to the bad. We'll see. Okay. Now, look at the next one. We have one more puzzle. Vayigdelu ha'ne'orim, vayhi Esav ish yodei atzayid ish sada v'Yaakov ish tam yoshev. Okay, we'll leave this for tomorrow because there's a major theme here. Okay, we're not going to start this now. All right.